Hey everyone, my name is Yarrow and you're listening to the DIY Small Business Podcast. Really glad you're here and really excited to share this interview. We're talking about social media and mental health in business, which I can never talk too much about, very important things. I'm otherwise heading into my weekend. I'm having a really nice week of client work and catch-ups and seeing friends. And I'm here if you need tech or web design support or business mentoring. And yeah, that's all I want to say, I think. Wishing you a really beautiful weekend and lots of joy and ease in your business. Thank you for listening. Hey everyone, I'm really excited to speak to Jen of Rockrose Digital today. As you know, I'm excited to speak to more small business owners who have interesting stories and just kind of exciting, refreshing approaches to business. So Jen is offering copywriting and social media services, which we'll hear more about in a minute. And we connected after I received her guest newsletter on the Sunday newsletter from Ellie Trier, who's also been on the podcast a few episodes back. And it was just really lovely to receive that on a Sunday. I try to not read too many emails on Sundays, but Ellie's is one that I'm really always looking forward to. And I also really love the idea that Ellie was away on her honeymoon and invited other people to kind of cover those weeks. And it was really cool to get to know other people in her community. So when Jen popped into my inbox, I was like, oh, hey, do you want to talk to me? And here we are. So, hey, Jen, thank you so much for making time and speaking to me.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Yay. I always start by grounding the conversation and asking people where you are in the world right now and what nature is like around you, just so that we can get a sense of how this conversation is coming to be.
So I currently live in Shrewsbury in Shropshire. So that's the West Midlands of England. And I am very lucky that our house is in like nearly 2 acres of land. So we've got a really big garden. There's like squirrels and rabbits in the garden. And my cat keeps bringing in mice. It's a nightmare. But yeah, the nature at the moment, all of the trees are turning and it's my favorite time of year. It's not too cold, but it's a little bit blustery, and yeah, all of the colours are in that transitional stage going from green to the kind of the yellowy orange colours at the minute, and yeah, it's really nice.
Mm-hmm. That sounds beautiful. And just as a silly side note, I love the word Shropshire so much. I just want to say it all day because there's just something so cool and cute and exciting about this combination of letters. Anyway.
I have never heard anyone say that before, but that's brilliant.
Well, there you go. So how would you describe your work if you met someone? I know the idea of an elevator pitch is a bit stressful. You definitely have more time than that. But let us know what you're doing.
So I do social media and copywriting for heart-centered business owners, people that have got a purpose, who live for a cause and not applause. People that have this passion that they want to fulfill and don't know how to convey that passion to other people. So I try and help them find the words that they need and try and find their community and create that community feel around their business. And I really try to focus on the people and not the numbers, kind of very much like Ellie's ethos of love over numbers. It's all about connections rather than how many followers you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so important because it's so easy, especially when we're starting out, to get really hung up on those numbers and get into comparison and worry that we're just not doing something right. And actually, I think, yeah, it's meant to be fun and connect us to other people and give us a space to share about our work in a way that's kind of meaningful and authentic and honest and doesn't feel like constantly shouting from the rooftops, right?
Exactly. And so my background before digital was hospitality. That's what I did for 12 years. And the kind of basis of hospitality, certainly for me, because I was working for smaller, independently run boutique venues, there was that focus on learning everything you could about your regulars and what dishes they preferred, what table they preferred, all of those little things. And every time they came to visit, you would build on your relationship with them. And that became like, you know, the backbone of the restaurant. People came back because you remembered them and they felt valued. And I really try to bring that same ethos to how I build my business and how I help my clients build theirs. You can have 10,000 people following you, and if not one of them is picking up the phone, then it's kind of, it's pointless. You know, it's really should be about the quality of those relationships and not how many you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such an interesting comparison. I was just thinking about this little village that I moved to, which has only one venue where you can eat out, and it's a chip shop. And in the chip shop, they already know how I like my chips, and they don't even ask if I want salt on them anymore. And they know that I'm bringing my little Tupperware thingy because I don't want to create more plastic waste, and no one is rolling their eyes anymore. It's really cute, and I feel so appreciated. So actually, yeah, that's a beautiful way of looking at it. Yeah, cool. So I would love to hear a little bit more about how you made that transition from hospitality to starting your own little studio or agency. I don't know which word you like to use, but I know that you also started with no capital like me, which always makes my heart sing. And I'm always like, whew, other people do it too, and I don't want to pretend or like, you know, just pretend that it's so easy. If you just have 50 grand, you can do it too. Yay.
Yeah. So I was in hospitality for 12 years, and that, like, my final position was managing a Michelin star restaurant, so it's like quite high caliber. And something really, really horrid happened at that last venue, and I was like, okay, enough is enough. Like, I can't do hospitality anymore. And all of my life had been hospitality up until that point. That was my vision for the rest of my life. I had no other skills necessarily, no other experience, even though I'd learned so many skills in hospitality. I knew nothing else. And so after hospitality, for about 2 or 3 years, I was doing temp job after temp job. Just everything was quite soulless and really not giving me any fulfillment. I had no purpose whatsoever. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life anymore. Previously, my vision had always been to run my own venue, and yeah, that had kind of been taken away from me so unexpectedly, and I didn't know what to do with the rest of my life. And then when I was in hospitality, I did social media and marketing for quite a few of the venues that I worked in, and it came really naturally to me. Writing bits for websites, and I really got a knack for it, and I really enjoyed building up relationships online as much as I did offline, and I saw how much more it kind of amplified those real life connections. You know, the fact that I've been able to keep in touch with people and see what they were eating in between visits to me and stuff. So I guess social media and digital marketing kind of felt like a natural progression for me. It was a similar sort of instant gratification that I got as well. You know, you can see instant results as soon as you post something on Instagram, and in the same way that I would see instant satisfaction from giving someone a plate of food. So it felt like a natural progression for me. And after 2 years of drifting, someone that I had worked with previously, she ran her own digital agency. So I was working for her, and I still didn't feel valued or recognized as such. Like, my work wasn't being paid for. It was kind of like an add-on, and there were a lot of other issues, like I wasn't getting paid on time and all sorts of stuff. It was really icky. A lot of the lessons I've learned about how to run a business has come from them, and like how not to run a business. And then it was December 2017, the week before Christmas, I got made redundant. And yeah, I had no money to my name. This agency were really good at paying me late. I'd had a lot of bank charges because they paid me late, and things were just a bit of a nightmare. My mental health was terrible, the worst it's ever been. I was looming, like my 30th birthday was looming, and
Oh my God, wow.
yeah, I felt like my 30 years so far hadn't lived for any, like I had no purpose. I was single, in debt, no job, like not wanting to get out of bed at all. I didn't feel like I had a reason to keep going. So things were really shit. Sorry for swearing.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, and I didn't want to make it to my 30th birthday. Things were really bad. And then, I set up Rock Rose. I think it was the 2nd of January, 2018. And I didn't get any clients for 2 months. I just kept chipping away, kind of showing up on Instagram, giving value and trying to help people. And eventually things started trickling through, and it gave me a sense of purpose again, a sense of direction, and oh my god, someone cares. Like, I have to now show up for someone else, and that sense of responsibility. And it's kind of grown from there, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Like, to start off with, I had no intention of running my own business or doing it for a long time. It was just a way to keep the roof over my head and keep my cat fed. And then 2 years on, and I love it. I could not imagine doing anything else now.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, not just beautiful, also incredibly difficult and really hard, and such a big, it sounds like a really big Saturn return. I'm not sure if you're into astrology, but I think there's this idea that at the end of our 20s, for many of us, like, lots of things come to our head. And in your case, it sounds like extra difficult with so many things happening in a really short period of time, and feeling a bit lost in between, like, the job and the being paid late and all the difficulties with that. Like, I so can relate to the anxiety of, like, and the shame also of having to ring people up again and again and say, like, hey, you still haven't paid me.
Exactly.
What is happening? That is such an awful, disempowering situation to be in. And so well done for finding a better way of doing it. That's really cool.
Thank you.
And also for making it through this first period. I think actually finding your first clients within 2 months is really quick for lots of people. I mean, it really depends on where you're starting from in the industry, of course, but I think, it just really takes time, and it takes so much courage to stick with it in those first 2 months. I think many of us in that time are just like, okay, I tried. I'm gonna try and get a job now, if I can. So
I've seen so many people, like, obviously social media, it tells one story for everybody. And people only show the good bits. They don't show how long it does take to get that first client, or how long it does take to start actually making money, and being able to cover your bills. And like, cash flow sometimes still is an issue. You can't predict when people are going to pay, or if they're going to pay late and stuff, so it can still be an issue. But now I am at a point where it is a lot more regular. I do have steady income, and it's wonderful. I'm now making more money than I ever have done in a salary job. But I do try to be open about how long that has taken, and the struggles. There's this time last year, it's like January, I made £600, which was barely enough to keep, like, to cover my bills. And I was looking at getting a full-time job. Things were not great, just through a few different circumstances. I lost a few clients, and I was even messaging my current clients saying, I will give you money off your next invoice if you can send some people my way. And like, now I'm earning a lot more than £600, which is great. But it's those struggles that aren't shown. And there's so many people that freak out that it's taking, a few months, 6 months maybe, before they start seeing any real progress. And I think it's really important to be open about that. Things don't happen overnight unless you are very, very lucky, or you've done it in a very considered, timely, transitional way. But it was a sink or swim thing for me. I had no job, and I needed to keep the roof over my head. Like, at the time, I was living in a flat that had a meter for the electricity. So there were a number of occasions where I would shower in the dark, or had to make a decision between food and heating. It was really miserable. And I am so grateful that things have changed so quickly, and I am now in such an amazing position compared to 18 months ago.
Thank you for sharing that. I also want to say, I feel like even after years of things becoming a lot more stable and this really like this grounding into the trust that the next project and the next client and next payment is always coming, there's still moments, because I think we live in a culture where having a period of that kind of struggle is so shaking our core, because there's no real solidarity or backup plan, and you can lose so much in such a short period of time, that even for me now, I'm approaching my 5th birthday now, and I had similar experiences in my first and sometimes in my second year in business. I still have these moments where I just need to stock my cupboard with dried food until it bursts, just to kind of really feel like I'm safe now. This is okay. I can pay rent. It's going to be great. And yeah, and I think talking about that and unshaming it really, really helps so much. And I admire that you are able to talk about that so openly right from the start, because if I'm honest, at the time, like in the first 2 years of my business, I really didn't have the courage to speak about those struggles openly, because I was so deep in the story that in order to attract clients, I had to really make it look as if I totally had it together myself.
Oh
Because
yeah, I
I
completely get it.
yeah. Because I thought otherwise, who's going to hire me? They're just going to be worried about me missing deadlines. And the truth is, I really can't remember ever having missed a real deadline, or like ever letting a client down on a promise I've made. That doesn't mean my work is always perfect. I definitely make mistakes, but I actually have such a strong sense of responsibility, sometimes to an extent that isn't even good for me. But yeah, so I wonder if you have any tips on finding courage to really be yourself in business, or like what has made that easier for you?
I think maybe the stuff that I went through before I started my self-employed journey, the thing that made me leave hospitality was really horrid, and I had PTSD for 6 months afterwards and went through counselling. And I think it was that counselling process that allowed me to really take ownership of myself and my life and my direction. And the counselling did a lot of internal work. So I kind of, I guess, stopped caring too much about what other people think, and just tried to find, like, I actually listened to my own convictions for the first time in my life, and went with what my heart felt was right. And I think I've learned to just be open, embrace me for me, and if people don't like it, then they don't like it. They don't have to, but then the people that do, they're my people, and I'm never letting them go. Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you. I'm also wondering, like, what your relationship to social media generally is like right now. I really love what I saw of you online. I'm not on social media myself anymore, but you just have such a nice, inviting, warm, honest voice. I also saw that you were working on a campaign called Scroll Free September, which really excited me. So I
Yeah.
would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so my relationship with social media, I think I do struggle with it. It is my main form of procrastination, and I always kid myself that it's for work when, hours have passed and I've not actually done anything productive. And I am aware of that. If I start my day by picking up my phone, then it's kind of game over from there. I really struggle to regain that control on it. And I know it's something that I need to work on. I know it's something that when my mental health isn't great, I will go to it more. And it's almost, I can't get out of that spiral. But it's something I'm really aware of as well. I love it, and I love the connection. I love the relationships I have made. And right now, I couldn't imagine kind of working in anything else and doing anything else. So I do really enjoy it. There obviously are negatives, which I am also trying to combat in another project that I'm doing for mental health. And yes, School Fee September. So I was approached by the Royal Society of Public Health last year to do a guest blog for them about like my top tips for managing your digital self-care, which was amazing. And I should have done another blog for them this time, but I just didn't get around to it. My diary was so busy for work in August.
That's
So
great.
yeah, great problem to have. But yeah, so digital self-care is something that I am really interested in, and I would love to do like a workshop or a course around that. And I'm also working on a mental health app, in the very, very early stages, but it's something that I'm really, really passionate about, and using social media and technology as a force for good, because it gets such a bad rep, but it's so powerful if we just kind of learn to use it in the right way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm so excited for the app and would love to read the article as well. What are kind of like your beginners tips that you like sharing with people who also want to learn more about digital self-care?
My top tips. I think it's creating a space that is truly your own. I think, everyone has social media now, and we've got the power to follow whoever we want and craft this world ourselves. So we are fully in control of what we're taking in terms of content. So if something isn't working for you, like if someone's making you feel bad about yourself, or a business account is making you feel bad or angry, like just unfollow them. Like there's no obligation to follow anybody or do anything. Just really craft a world that is good for you and your mental health. Like there's no reason to not, I don't think. And I think there's too much pressure to maybe be seen to be following certain accounts or sharing certain things, but people care a lot less than you think, or pay attention a lot less than you think. I think it's all about taking ownership and kind of really trying to control your own little world and your own little bubble.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I feel the same way, and I think it can be really powerful if we are approaching it with a lot of intention to really connect with accounts and people who share things that feel uplifting. And also I want to add to that, if you really can't unfollow someone because you are worried about feeling like it's letting them down, you can still just mute their account, and you won't
Exactly. And
and
no one knows.
yeah, exactly. No one knows. Yeah, that's super true. How are you dealing with the pressure to always be on there all the time, not just as a consumer, but also as someone sharing content and kind of working with the algorithm in that way?
It can seem quite laborious sometimes, or like it's coming from a place of kind of having to do it rather than wanting to do it, kind of obligation rather than love. And whenever I feel like that, I always try and take a break, take a step back, and kind of allow myself to fall in love with it again, and fall in love with making connections and it coming from that place rather than feeling like I have to show up, and it coming from almost like a place of fear or desperation, which is how it can come across for some people. You can tell that they are almost forcing themselves to show up. And I can't remember what your question was.
Oh, yeah. I think you have already covered it quite a bit. I was just wondering, like, how you're dealing with the pressure to always be consistent and to be present and to share in order to not kind of lose that momentum and work with the algorithm.
Yeah, so I try to plan as much as possible. I don't always schedule stuff for myself, just because the world of social media, there's updates and changes all the time. So at least plan things so that's less overwhelming. And I am really honest with myself if I ever need a break, or like I said, if it ever feels like it's coming from a place of kind of forced obligation, I stop and take a step back, because to me it's really important to show up like authentically and genuinely, rather than feeling like I have to put on this happy smiley face, because that's really not what my brand is about. I really try to show business owners that if they need to take a break for a day, a week, a month, whatever, that's fine. They can't expect growth in that time, but equally the world isn't going to end if they don't show up on Instagram. Like it's absolutely fine, and if it's just about doing what is right for you, which I think again is something that a lot of social media, like it isn't portrayed enough on social media. People feel like they have to be on it all the time and to do it a certain way, but yeah, it's there to just create and do however you want.
Yeah, Yeah, that's so true. I also really love your brand values. I have them in front of me, so I'll just name them. The mental health, girl power, and ethically grown rose, which is so sweet. Can you maybe talk a little bit more about how you came to them? Or also, I wondered, and I don't want to make my question too complex, but basically, in the beginning, before we start recording, I'd already said I really love your website copy so much, and I feel it's really clear, and like I really got a sense right away from of what you're offering and what it would be like to work with you. And I think that's for many of us quite a complex process. Like I know that until the summer when I worked with Sophie Dale, who's amazing and who helped me kind of figure my copy out, I felt so, I kind of sort of knew I had my information on my website, but copywriting was such a big blind spot for me. And I just kind of saw your brand values, for example, I was like, oh man, yeah, that seems so clear and straightforward to me. And I wonder how you got to that place.
I think I really wanted to make sure that I stamped my identity and how I'm different to other social media people. There's so many social media managers out there. There's a lot of courses now for that you can learn online how to do social media, and it's a lot of mums or working mums, stay-at-home mums that are now picking up social media as a career because it's quite flexible around being a working mum, which is fine, and it's amazing that so many people are wanting to do social media, but it means that I've had to try and work quite hard at crafting myself my own little unique position and pocket of this industry. Mental health is something that's really important to me, not just because of my history with anxiety and depression, but it's how I've shaped my business. It's how my business has grown, and I do take it really gently if a client isn't necessarily the right fit for me, either before or during working with them. I am quite honest about that, and I only take on work that I know is actually going to be beneficial for my mental health and not detrimental. Girl power is a big thing for me ever since kind of that counselling that I went through. I have become a feisty feminist, and I am more than okay with that.
I want to work with your therapist. This is the second time I've been thinking about this. It's like, oh my God, who is this person?
It was just through a charity, actually, through like kind of what I'd been through. I got appointed by the police, and yeah, I'd had therapy and like CBT before years ago, but yeah, this woman, she dug deep, and within about 2 sessions we uncovered and like resolved everything that I needed to. And I had no idea, like I was like, we're never going to do this in like the 8 weeks that we've got. I mean, yeah, she did it in 2. She was a magician. So yeah, the girl power, I just want to support other female business owners because it's tough, and I think there's not a lot of help out there, certainly not honest help. And again, I think women are more pressured, or we feel under more pressure to have to show up in a certain way and do things a certain way, or like we're going to do things wrong and break our business, but that's just not true. So for me, it's really wanting to support other female business owners. And then yeah, the ethically grown brand value is, even though I am a one girl band, I still want to make sure that I'm looking after the environment and supporting local people as much as possible. So yeah, I do recycle, I do try and have a paper free system, and as much as possible I do visit like independent local venues and support them. Yeah
Sorry. I also feel like a side effect of the way we build small businesses in like these networks of solidarity is that we are each giving each other more headspace to really question the wider structural systems in which we're operating. Like I remember when I was in employment, there were so many things I did really care about and really wanted to like offer resistance to and challenge and dream up in a better way, but I just was under so much pressure, and like just like half an hour to read on a Friday afternoon after coming home from work felt so precious, like between 40-hour work week, lots of overtime that was unpaid, commuting to and back from work, just doing your dishes and your laundry, there was just so little headspace to think about these bigger questions in life. And so I'm so grateful to work within these communities where we're in some ways very pragmatic, and we're like, okay, I guess we all have to make a living and pay bills and all that kind of stuff, but how can we do that in a way that also kind of leaves us space to be humans and to explore and question things and
Yeah.
really support each other in an authentic way, rather than creating just alternative systems of competition and that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like seeing so many companies just going through the motions.
Mm.
Like, it's quite soulless, and I need to feel like I'm part of like a higher purpose. Like, I know social media is a completely fickle thing, and the world isn't going to end if social media disappears one day. But for me, it's kind of, how can I shape my business so that I'm a cog, part of like a higher purpose, or like a bit of a ripple effect. It's
Mm.
why I like working with the kind of clients that I work with. They each have their own purpose, and they help people in their own different ways. And yeah, I may only do social media, but it's my little ripple effect. Like, me
Mm.
helping them helps other people, and it's how that grows then,
Yeah.
and kind of makes the world a better place. So
Totally.
wanky, but so true.
No, it is really true. And I think like doing social media is nothing like only about doing social media. I think that it really grows people's confidence a lot to feel like they have a system in place and they know what they want to share about, and they have tools that make it a little bit easier, even if it's just something like using later.com to type something out on your screen rather than your phone. I
Yeah.
think it's just, when we run a small business, it's so easy to forget that we wear all these different hats at once. Like, we do our beekeeping, we do customer care, we do our graphic design, maybe we've built our own website. And I think when this point comes where we can bring someone like you in, and we're like, okay, there's at least this one thing that I'm going to get support around. There's like, like this full body exhale, and we're like, okay, there's space now in other areas to grow and really take ownership and step into my power. But I also have a little bit of support around social media, and like many of my clients feel really overwhelmed and would probably really benefit from that support. So yeah, I think that's great.
Thank you.
Do you
Thank
have
you.
any tips for getting into the headspace of writing, either for social media or for websites?
I think it's all about really, really understanding who you're speaking to. You can say something, and it doesn't matter how well crafted your message is, if it's not what the person on the other end wants to hear,
Mm-hmm.
it's completely irrelevant. So I have crafted quite a elaborate customer persona for my brand.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first time ever, I actually shared it in a workshop on Friday with the people there. And it was only then they really understood like the need to create this persona. So they're really trying to fully understand not just like their age and whether they have a dog or not. It's their fears, what challenges they're overcoming, how their life might change at different times of year. And like, I've given her a name, my persona, so I almost speak to her like a best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll sit there writing like, okay, what would Joanne do right now? Like, what's she up to? How can I help her today?
Yeah.
So as much as it makes me look completely mental when I'm doing my own writing at home, I think it works. It's done me justice anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to expand on that a little bit, and like let me know if you have a different view on working with the persona. But I also call this a CTA, like a client avatar, but whatever you want to call it is totally fine.
Yeah.
I think giving it a name is really, really sweet as well, or her.
Yeah.
And I think to me, the idea is to really kind of sit with this specific person that you're trying to talk to or create something for. Something that's really helping me is to create stuff that's for my younger self. So I think my persona actually has a lot in common with my younger self when I was starting a business,
Yeah.
because I would have wanted the kind of support I now offer to small business owners, especially around tech and group coaching and that kind of stuff. And yeah, like you said, really kind of trying to think about, what is this person struggling with? What are they worried about? Like, what kind of support do they want? What is their budget? Where do they live? Like, what do their days look like? And how can I meet them in the best way possible, and like communicate to them in a way that feels transparent and empowering, just that gives them all the information they need in order to make like a liberated choice about whether or not they want to work with me. I think that's so helpful. And sometimes I hear people get a little bit stuck around this idea of like, okay, but if I identify this person so clearly, like, what about everyone else? But I think actually that's kind of almost irrelevant, because as long as you create the space in which you can really express yourself and create while you're thinking about this particular person, this will inevitably be attractive to other people as well. And we're not all the same. It's totally impossible to predict what every single one of your customers ever wants. But
Of
by kind
course,
of
yeah.
like getting clear about one of them, you're making your life so much easier.
Well, yeah, that's exactly. I think at my workshops, a lot of people, when I do this exercise with them, they immediately think of their broad spectrum of all of their clients. I'm like, no, 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 like whittle it down to like that person that really lights you up, that gets you out of bed. Like that's your reason for getting out of bed every morning. You know, they're going to tell every single person about how amazing you are. They are going to be your biggest fan. That's your person.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't negate anybody else at all. It attracts the right people, the people that buy into it. You know, if you show up as this persona consistently, your audience, they might not necessarily fit that model perfectly, but then they can understand enough about you to make a decision then as to whether you are for them or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like not one of my clients fits my persona perfectly by any means.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's quite liberal and like down to earth and a little bit of a hippie, and quite flamboyant in some respects, but also a really like down to earth, like motherly type. But then I have a B2B, very male orientated business that I do copywriting for on a regular basis. But it's the fact that I've shown up as a consistent persona, they have been able to buy into and been like, okay, no, like Jen is who we want to work with, which is great. Absolutely great.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that.
It's okay.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us before you go? Anything that comes to mind?
Um, The only thing is that I'm doing consultations at the moment. I have 8 spaces left for the rest of the year. So these are one-to-one sessions, taking a deep dive on your business, doing an audit on what your social media is currently doing at the minute, and then making a 5-step action plan for how to turn things around. And now is the perfect time before the end of the year, the end of the decade, to make those changes and start 2020 in the best way possible. So yeah.
Yes, I was gonna ask next what you're currently offering. Where can
Yeah.
people find you if they want to know more?
Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All
Mhm.
of my handles are the same at Rockrose Digital, and also rockrosedigital.co.uk.
Cool. And we'll link to that in the show notes as well.
So
Also,
much.
oh my God, it's also the end of the decade. You're totally
I know,
right. Oh my God.
so scary, isn't it? Like, where did that last 10 years go?
Yeah, that's so wild. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. And thank you so much also for everything else that you shared. I'm excited to share this conversation, and I'll link to everything in the show notes. And it's just been really great to talk to you. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Thank you, Hun.